Welcome back inside the Veterans Memorial Arena on this Saturday night as the Senators taking on East Division rival Syracuse here this evening. And my second intermission guest is goaltender Chris Holt. And Chris, it's been a fine welcome to Binghamton for you, certainly with the way you played here on home ice. The shutout streak having ended in last Saturday night's loss against Syracuse, but still 3 games, just 3 goals allowed. Talk about your start here and your first AHL call-up of the season.
It's exciting. It's exciting to come up and get off on such a good foot. The team up here has been playing outstanding, and my workload in the games have been a moderate shot count, but not too many high quality chances. So it's been a nice transition coming up from Elmira to this.
I think one of the things, too, when the goaltending tandem before Mike Brodeur was called up with the injury to Pascal Leclerc, it was a situation where the goalies were playing well at times, but when needing that big save, sometimes it just wasn't there. You talk about the low number of shots you faced, but the defensive effort by the team has made those high-quality chances few and far between, and you've been there to answer the call when you have been tested.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that you need to take pride in doing, because there's going to be games where you're not relied on a lot to do, to have a lot of production for the team, but there never goes a game by that you don't get at least one great scoring chance, and that's the time that you really love to be the goalie and make that big save.
I think one of the differences that I've noticed in your time here with Binghamton, your style, you're 6 feet 3 inches tall, you cover a lot of the net, and you're not a guy that seems to panic. I think your demeanor off the ice reflects how we've seen you play on the ice, very calm, cool, and collected, and not a lot of rebounds, and I think it's nice to see that steadiness between the pipes.
Yeah, I mean, rebounds is something that I spent a lot of time working on in practice, and in this day and age with the goaltenders in the league as good as they are, there's not too many guys that get beat with a straight shot anymore, and so most of the goals are all off of rebounds and deflections and things like that, and so just me personally, I spent a lot of time trying to hone those skills more than any other, because if there are no second chances, then there's usually no goals.
Your preseason here with Binghamton, a situation where you got some playing time, I believe. I don't know if it was back-to-back weekends or you saw action against both Syracuse and Wilkes-Barre during the training camp portion of the year, but I thought you played so well, and it was a situation where, very disappointing, we were sitting here doing some radio stuff in this very studio during the preseason, and I was really pulling for you, and then you got told you were being sent to the ECHL and the Elmira Jackals. Talk about your feelings at that point, having played such a strong camp up here.
Well, it's definitely not feelings that I'm not used to. I've that's happened to me my first 4 years of pro. Is I've always had really strong training camps, and then due to circumstances with contractual obligations or just pure numbers. I mean, there were 3 goalies here working for 2 spots, and I was the last guy that jumped on the Binghamton bandwagon here, and so unfortunately I was the first guy out. But that's the way it goes, and I kept a positive attitude when I went down there, and I worked hard and played well for Elmira, and just sat by my phone and waited for a call every day, and finally it eventually came, and I'm glad to be up here playing well.
You brought up the Elmira Jackals, a very solid start for them, 7-0, and they've kind of hit the skids as of late. I want to say 3 wins out of their last 15 games heading into this weekend, and it's been tough, but I guess talk about that fast start out of the gates. It certainly had to feel good. You got sent down from Binghamton, yet you were part of something very successful right off the get-go.
Absolutely, and the thing about going down there, as I've learned, is when you get there for training camp, you never really know how good your team is going to be, because you never know what other teams are going to get from their affiliate teams and stuff like that. So we were all kind of looking at each other going, I wonder how this season is going to go. And then to start off 7-0 was kind of a double-edged sword, where it was outstanding to get that good of a lead in the standings, but I think probably in the long run could have been one of the worst things that happened to us, because I think a lot of attitudes changed down there, and people started to kind of take some shortcuts and focus more on padding their stats as opposed to playing, disciplined hockey and things like that. And for that, now they're, like you said, 3 in their last 15. So
you bring up disciplined hockey, playing right now for head coach Don Nachbauer here in Binghamton. Steve Martinson, who I'm familiar with, the head coach with the Elmira Jackals, I believe his 4th season with Elmira. Talk about some similarities, some differences in the coaching styles and what you've seen here at the AHL level and the ECHL level with those 2 men behind the bench.
Well, I'll say some similarities are that they're both very intense people. They're very loud. They like to talk a lot. They've got they've always got something to say about every situation in the game, and that's something that a lot of teams will feed off of, is that energy. I'd say some differences is down in Elmira. It's extremely offensive minded. I mean, they are very, very aggressive and sometimes over aggressive, but that can result to a lot of goals for, and at the same time we have a pretty high goals against down there. So when you score a lot and you give up a lot, it just becomes a shootout. And then
sounds like a goaltender's worst nightmare.
Yeah, it is a goaltender's worst nightmare down there. We might score 6 goals, but you're going to get 20 chances against that are pretty high quality. But then, up here, we pay a lot more attention to sound defensive play, and we try and take a lot of pride in what we do in the defensive zone. And, even with an offensive mindset in the offensive zone, it's still important to, understand that, there's times to push forward and there's times to pull back. And I think that's one of the things that Binghamton's really good at.
Bit of an interesting season for you last year, playing in 3 different levels, with the Alaska Aces and the ECHL. Peoria Rivermen were off the top of my head, I want to say, a 1.8 goals against average in about 20 appearances. And then a brief stint, 19 minutes, with the St. Louis Blues in the NHL. Talk about that full year that you had.
Yeah, that was, again, not anything I'm not used to. All my 4 years of previous pro, I've played in all 3 levels, and it's a great call to get called up anytime. That's the time you want to go in the office, but unfortunately, sometimes you step in there and you're going the other direction. But it was a fun time, and it's exciting. It's exciting to sit on the bench and. You never want anything bad to happen to your team, but when a game starts to get away from the goalie that's in the net, you sit there and you kind of get those butterflies, like you might be going in soon, and it's a dream come true every time you get to step out onto that NHL ice. It doesn't matter if it's for 1 minute or for 60 minutes; it's still unbelievable.
Oh, you brought up that word butterflies. I'm going to use that for my my last inquiry here.
Segue.
Butterflies a little bit more when you get the call and you're going up in that whole process. The wheels begin spinning on that, or when you can kind of see a game as a blowout. You're going to get that tap on the shoulder from the head coach and say, "Go in there and mop up in a 6-2 hockey game."
Well, in a 6-2 hockey game, there's not a lot of. You always want to make a good performance. You don't want to go in there and give up 4 more goals, because that's pretty devastating to your progress as a player. But the butterflies they're all the time. When you're up there, you always want to make a good impression. Somebody's always watching, and to get the call is such a good feeling, and it makes grinding it out in the East Coast League and grinding it out here in Binghamton. It makes that all worth it just for that one phone call to go up, even if you only get to play a few shifts.
Well, hopefully things continue to work in that direction, Chris. A great start here in Binghamton and continued success here on home ice.
Thank you very
great
much.
Having you.
Thank you.
Chris Holt of the Binghamton Senators, my second intermission guest here as the Sens taking on the Syracuse Crunch in a big East Division battle. We'll take a timeout, and we'll be back with more on tonight's Senators broadcast here on My 8.